Have you ever seen someone so obsessed with proving they're above everyone else? They'll bend every rule just to feel important? Well, buckle up, because this is the story of how one entitled passenger, let's call her Karen, tried to sneak her way into first class on a long-haul flight. She thought she was being slick. She thought she could outsmart the system. But what happened next had the entire cabin watching, and by the time we landed, she wasn't sipping champagne, she was sitting in the very last row, right beside the toilets. It all started at the boarding gate. I was in line with my economy group, half awake, clutching a coffee like it was my lifeline, when I noticed her. You know the type. Chin tilted high, lips pursed, walking with that rules don't apply to me energy. She strutted past everyone like she owned the terminal, dragging an oversized designer tote that clearly should have been checked in. When the flight attendants announced boarding for first class, Karen didn't even hesitate. She casually joined the line of business travelers, phone in hand, her boarding pass still tucked underneath it. No scan, no questions, just pure confidence. She slipped right behind a group of executives and walked straight down the jet bridge as if she belonged there. Now, here's the thing. Airlines know people pull this stunt. That's why attendants always do a name and seat check once everyone's seated. But Karen wasn't just sneaky, she was bold. She picked the biggest, comfiest seat in first class, tossed her bag on the floor, and started taking selfies like she was in a travel ad. I swear she even did the hair flip. I remember looking at her, thinking, oh, this is going to end badly. And sure enough, a few minutes later, a flight attendant came through the cabin, tablet in hand, checking seat assignments. She stopped at Karen's row, smiled politely, and asked, "Ma'am, may I please see your boarding pass?" That's when the cracks started showing. Karen fumbled, scrolled through her phone, pretended she couldn't find it. Then finally, she flashed it. Economy class, row 32, middle seat. But instead of admitting she was caught, she turned up the drama. "There must be some mistake," she said, loud enough for half the cabin to hear. "I always fly first class. My husband is a frequent flyer." This is ridiculous. The attendant stayed perfectly calm, though you could see the patience wearing thin. "Ma'am," she said evenly, "this seat, 2A, belongs to another passenger. Your boarding pass says 32B. I'll need you to move before boarding is complete." Now, a normal person would sigh, grab their stuff, and move along. But Karen? Oh no, she was just getting warmed up. She gripped those armrests like they were her birthright. "Absolutely not," she snapped. "I paid for this experience. This is my seat. I'm not sitting back there with everyone else." Meanwhile, the businessman who actually owned seat 2A was standing right behind the attendant, waiting patiently. He finally cleared his throat. "Excuse me, that's actually my seat. Can we sort this out, please?" Karen whipped her head around like a hawk. "Are you seriously trying to take a seat from a lady? Do you have no manners?" At that point, it was like live theater. People in first class were watching wide-eyed. Phones were subtly raised. Even passengers in economy were peeking through the curtain, whispering to each other. You could feel the tension in the air. Everyone knew this was going to escalate. The flight attendant's smile faded into that professional, no-nonsense look only airline staff can master. "Ma'am, if you don't move voluntarily, we'll have to involve the cabin supervisor. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be." Karen huffed dramatically, crossed her arms, and declared, "This is discrimination. I'm being harassed. I have rights." She was throwing every excuse she could think of, hoping something would stick. Then came the cabin supervisor, a tall woman with a calm but commanding presence. She crouched slightly and said firmly, "Ma'am, this seat isn't yours. If you don't move immediately, we'll have to deplane you before takeoff." That one word, deplane, hit Karen like cold water. You could see the panic flicker behind her eyes. But instead of accepting defeat, she did what Karens do best. She doubled down. With a dramatic scoff, she stood up, grabbed her bag, and shouted, "Fine! If you want me to sit in the back with the peasants, then so be it. But this airline will be hearing from my lawyer." She grabbed her tote and stormed down the aisle, nearly smacking another passenger with it as she passed. And when she finally reached row 32, her face dropped. Middle seat, no legroom, and, just to make it worse, right beside the restroom. The irony was almost poetic. A few passengers chuckled quietly. "You couldn't blame them," Karen had gone from champagne dreams to toilet seat reality in under 10 minutes, but of course she wasn't done. You'd think being escorted to the back of the plane and forced into the worst seating board might humble someone. Not Karen. If anything, it fueled her fire. The second she sat down, she started grumbling, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "This is unacceptable," she hissed. "I paid good money for this flight. How dare they seat me here, next to the bathroom? Do they think I'm some kind of animal?" Her seatmates, a young college kid on one side and a sweet grandmother on the other, exchanged a look that said everything. The grandmother, ever polite, gave a tight little smile. The kid wisely popped in his earbuds and stared at the seatback screen, pretending not to exist. Then, as if on cue, the restroom door opened and a wave of, let's say, unpleasant air escaped. Karen gagged dramatically. "Oh my God, this is inhumane! How can they treat passengers like this?" She smacked the call button. The flight attendant appeared moments later, wearing the forced smile of someone who knew exactly what was coming. "Yes, ma'am? Is there a problem?" "A problem?" Karen snapped. "You've put me in the worst seat on this plane. I can see empty rows up there. I demand to be reseated immediately." The attendant's tone stayed even. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this flight is completely full. Every seat is assigned. You'll need to remain in 32B for the duration of the flight." Karen leaned forward, finger jabbing toward the attendant like a courtroom lawyer. "Do you know who I am? My husband is a platinum member. He spends thousands on flights like this. I deserve better treatment." By now, whispers had spread through the cabin. People were elbowing each other, subtly pointing, and some even recording on their phones. Karen, lost in her outrage, didn't realize she'd become the in-flight entertainment. The attendant, still calm but now clearly done, said, "Ma'am, if you continue to harass staff or disrupt passengers, the captain will be informed. Please lower your voice." That set her off like a firecracker. "Oh, so now you're threatening me? This is your idea of customer service? I swear when we land, I'll sue this airline for emotional distress." Right then, the restroom door opened again, releasing another round of that unfortunate aroma. Karen was mid-rant when someone in the back chuckled a little too loudly, and that one laugh turned into a ripple of laughter throughout the rear cabin. Karen's face turned crimson. She folded her arms, muttering about lawsuits and discrimination, but for the first time her voice dropped. She could tell the crowd was no longer on her side. Still, you could see her mind working. She wasn't done, just regrouping. When the plane leveled off at cruising altitude, most passengers relaxed into movies or naps. But not Karen. She sat rigid, lips pursed, eyes darting like she was plotting her next offensive move. Then came the beverage cart. When it reached her row, she put on her sweetest fake smile, as though none of the chaos had ever happened. "Yes," she said smoothly. "I'll take a glass of champagne." The attendant blinked. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Complimentary champagne is served only in first class. In the economy, we have soft drinks, juice, or water." That was it. The final straw. Karen's fake smile vanished in an instant. "This is outrageous. First you steal my seat. Now you deny me basic hospitality. I deserve champagne." Her voice climbed with every word. "This is theft. This is discrimination. This is abuse." The grandmother beside her leaned in and whispered softly, "Ma'am, maybe just take a water?" But Karen wasn't listening. She was too busy performing for the audience she'd created. The attendant stayed calm. "Ma'am, please lower your voice. I can offer you soda or water." Karen rolled her eyes. "Fine," she said dramatically. "Bring me sparkling water. And it better be cold." When the can arrived, she inspected it like it were a personal insult. She popped it open, took a sip, and muttered, "Tastes cheap." The rest of the flight, she made sure no one forgot she was unhappy. Loud sighs, eye rolls, snide comments to anyone within range. But the real climax came just before landing. As the captain announced the descent, the seatbelt sign dinged. And suddenly Karen stood up. "I need to use the restroom, now!" The flight attendant hurried over. "Ma'am, please remain seated until the sign is off." Karen stomped her foot like a child. "You can't control me!" "I have rights. I will not sit here like a prisoner." But before she could storm off, the plane hit a small patch of turbulence. Karen lost her balance, grabbed the seat in front of her, and nearly toppled straight into the college kid's lap. Gasps, and then laughter, echoed through the back rows. The attendant, no longer playing around, guided her back to her seat. "Ma'am, sit down immediately or the authorities will be waiting when we land." That did it. Karen froze, realizing she'd finally crossed the line. The last 20 minutes of the flight were silent, except for a few quiet chuckles from passengers reliving her antics. And when the wheels finally touched down, the cabin erupted in applause. Not for the landing, but because the reign of Karen was officially over. If you enjoyed watching this high-altitude meltdown, don't forget to hit that like button. Drop a comment about what you'd do if you were stuck next to her. And subscribe for more unbelievable stories just like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.